the word. How you doing today, Mike?
Oh, when I'm at the lake, I am always in my happy spot.
You were to lake last week,
Well, I'm,
last time.
when the sea, well, in fact, I stay here even in cold weather. I got air conditioning and heat, and I got everything I need on this houseboat to. It's kind of my floating man cave, and then
Yeah.
I got my boat tied up here. I got my instruments, and I'm working on my music that I love, and just relaxing, and I just there's something about the wind in my face coming off the water that just makes me happy. There's an energy or something I feel from water. People say there's a scientific reason for that. That we're made what about 80-90% water.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say there's something about water in my face when I'm on the boat that makes me feel. I'm thinking, well, he's never
No,
mind.
no, no. We're the human body is about 80-90% water,
Yeah.
and they say that when those molecules of the water of your body get near a body of water,
Uh huh.
that there is a molecular calmness. There's a connection between the energy of the electrons in the water and the electrons in your body. So that's why people like sitting around swimming pools and being at the beach and on the ocean and sitting on boats and fishing and being by the riverside. If you think about it, what is the attraction? Well, the attraction is we love being around bodies of water because we are mostly water.
Well, I'm a religious person, and I always there's there's three times as much water on the earth as there is land. And to me, that means that God meant for us to fish three times as much as He did for us to work.
I, I
So,
I can believe that. Lo, I'll be with you
no,
always.
I will be with you always.
Not on airplanes.
I don't have a clue what we're going to talk about today, but I threw that out to you the last time we spoke. I said, come up with something with us for us to talk about, Mike, that'll really help people. So I'm excited to know what we're going to talk about.
Well, there are three things that I am working with clients that I really want to point out, and then we're going to focus on the second one. The first one is don't ignore your Google My Business. That's the 5-star ratings. There's optimization. We could spend a whole episode really getting into detail on Google My Business, but that's not what I do. But number two is creating fresh, relevant, original content. Fresh, original, regional content. Now, think about what I just said there. And when you get cookie cutter content from companies, or you get people who are not you and don't speak in your language, they're creating content that's not original to you. So you have to create information that's relevant to your area and to the problems you solve. And I'm going to talk about in detail podcasting, because podcasting and blogging is content marketing. In other words, it's creating information that people find in the search engines, which there's multiple search engines, and then that content converts them into a customer, because we want to do business with the experts that know what they're doing. And your content is a subtle way of putting yourself as the authority. And then number three is paid advertising, and there's plenty of places that you can buy eyes and ears to find you. Lots of programs out there that'll take your money and they'll deliver a potential customer to you. They don't guarantee the customer. They just say if somebody's looking for this particular service, they'll find you, and then they may make a decision to call you or not. But let's talk about podcasting and why every business owner, I don't care what your business is, especially pest control, should have a proactive weekly podcast blog.
Which is what we're doing right now.
That's what we're doing. In fact, you're living proof. The biggest relationship building lead generator for our business, I've heard it over and over again. How'd you find us? Well, I listened to your podcast. What made you to decide to call? Well, you gave me your phone. You gave out your phone number and told me that if I needed help, that you'd help me. Duh. I mean, it's not rocket science, but what it is it's making the effort to create this fresh, original content. So we'll go all the way back to recently when I moved here to Nashville. I asked a colleague in the music business, I said, why isn't artist XYZ doing a weekly podcast? And you know what his question to me was? What's a podcast? And I said,
maybe you should clarify it.
Okay, well, let me clarify what a podcast is. It was named podcast because the guy that invented the technology was using an iPod back when we didn't have cell phones. All a cell phone would do is call one another. It wasn't a computer in your hands. And so the only way to get an audio program remotely in your hand was transfer it from the creator to a computer and then synchronize it to an iPod. And the guy's name was Adam Curry. And he said, my God, that's not broadcasting. That is podcasting. Little play on words.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now iPods, a little note for today, Apple has stopped making the iPod because nobody cares about iPods anymore. But an iPod was an audio MP3 player that revolutionized the music business years ago. And this Adam Curry said, if I get in front of a microphone and create a pre-recorded radio show, I can send it through the internet automatically to every iPod that subscribes to it. So a podcast is a radio program pre-recorded that when somebody raises their hand and says, I want to hear this information, every time the creator creates some new content, that device updates itself with the latest episode. That's the technology. It's just a recorded audio file done in a technology called MP3, and it's akin to a radio show. Whereas broadcast can either be recorded or live, and it's going through the air, and people are receiving it on their radios and their television sets. That's broadcast. But podcast is on-demand delivery of audio content. Okay. So
it's like you're the host of your own talk show, and you want to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. In our case, we want to talk about bugs.
Right, absolutely. So it's your show, and the only way you can make money from that show is build an audience, listeners. In other words, if you build a show and nobody tunes you in, well, then you're doing it as a hobby. But the point is, make amazing content. You might get listeners. But there's a step beyond that. And this is why I say pest control owners should be podcasting. I had a mentor years ago, Alex Mandozian, and he said it's easier to speak and transcribe than it is to write. In other words,
much easier.
If you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a 300-page article on why murder hornets are bad, it slows you down. Whereas you could talk easily for 5 minutes. What are murder hornets? Why they're bad? Who has them? What to do about them? Or you don't have them.
Writing, you got to worry about spelling, punctuation, proper grammar, all of this stuff. And you got to go back through it and edit it to make sure there's none of that in there. But when you're talking, you're just talking. So when you get done, that's okay. And if you stammer or stutter a little bit and say that's okay. It's so much easier to talk than it is to write.
So what we've discovered is that if you will learn to do a short, interesting, informational, local-centric article. Let's call a blog, a podcast, an article are all synonyms. A podcast is an audio version of an article. A blog is a written version of an article. An article is 200, 300, 400 words of good information on a web page or on a piece of paper. So if you can get in the habit of recording or interviewing experts or anything, 300 words is about 5 or 6 minutes of talking. And if you get proficient at knowing what you're going to say and say it, then you can go to artificial intelligent websites like otter.ai or rev.com, upload that audio, and it will about 99% clean that thing up and make an amazing written article out of your audio. So now you've got a blog piece, and now you've got a podcast. Now, what's great about that? Why would you do that? Well, when you put that text and that audio on your website and you register your podcast blog in all the search engines. Now you go, well, what are search engines? Well, there's Yahoo, there's Bing, there's Google, there's Apple, there's Amazon, there's Spotify, there's Pandora.
Foxfire.
Huh?
Isn't Foxfire one?
No, Foxfire is a browser.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay,
But
well, there you go.
Okay, but there's all these search engines, and when you do this status, you save time, you're more creative, it's easier to do, and now you're not only registered or indexed is the word. In other words, people can find you in these search engines. You got to remember that on your phone, there is a podcast search engine. Every one of them. I'm going to show you here. I have, and I'm showing the camera, and I'll tell you, I'm showing Amazon Music on my phone here to the camera. And for the sake of the podcast, just imagine I do it. And so I go here and I search, and I want to put in pest control podcast. I'm just searching. That's my interest. So in this search engine called Amazon Music, let me finish typing here. If I could spell pest control, it's real particular. It likes you to spell words right. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, Hal, but I searched in one of the largest search engines in the world, Amazon Music.
Mm-hmm.
We're the number 3 pest control podcast in a search engine of 55 million users worldwide. That's how, that's just one. That's not Google. That's not Bing. That's not Yahoo. That's the Amazon Music search engine and the Apple search engine and the Audible search engine. I mean, what happens is that when you create this content in a podcast blog format, like we teach our customers to do, you get put in all of these other search engines. Now, let me tell you something that's magical about that. These listings in these podcast search engines get indexed in Google. So what happens is you can dominate a page because of all these other places that your content gets syndicated to. The technology called RSS, Real Simple Syndication, means you push one button and it goes to all these other places automatically. And then those registrations in those other search engines get indexed in Google. All of this makes you rise for keywords. And that's why content marketing, most businesses don't do it correctly. Most businesses don't, they don't, you and I have talked about the titles of YouTube videos and blog posts. Titling them correctly will help you get found. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I go look at clients that either they're not blogging, they're not podcasting, they don't have a jingle. See, that's the other thing. We use SERP term jingles in our podcast. On our podcast, we open with Google Pest Control Marketer. Call 770-993-0004. In other words, we are embedding in our audience's mind a contact on repetition. So we're getting the power of radio, the power of article syndication, the power of multiple indexes or registrations in all the search engines, especially Google. It's content marketing coming from a podcast. Gary Vaynerchuk says a podcast is pillar content. You need to make pillar content minimum twice a month, at least once a month. Now let's talk about how easy and how hard, how people think, oh, that's overwhelming. Here's all you got to do. Think of a problem you solve. Talk about the problem. Tell them why the problem is bad. Tell them how you solve the problem, and remind them to call you if they ever have that problem. That's the format we do over and over again. So how many problems do you get paid to solve? How many problems do people think they have that aren't a problem? Those are things you can talk about, i.e. murder hornets are not in Georgia. But our client, Fred Talley, has gotten business. People hear about on the news, murder hornets. Oh, my God, what the hell's a murder hornet? They search for it, and they find Fred. And Fred says, this is what they are. Don't worry about them. We ain't got them. But by the way, if you have any other problems, call me.
Or what they have turns out to be a cicada killer or a European hornet or something else. And it turns into a job. It turns into a new client.
Well, what you have to do, and one of the things we teach our clients is there's a tool from Google called the Google Keyword Tool. And you can log into the Google Keyword Tool and put in a word and see how many people are searching for it. And if thousands and thousands of people are searching for a word that you have knowledge about, that's something to talk about. You will never run out of things to talk about. And so you have to learn how to get what's called the low-hanging fruit, high-traffic keywords that your competitors, everybody's looking for pest control. Everybody's looking for exterminator. That's what all the big guys, the big companies, they're paying big bucks to knock the little guy down the page because they got the money. But they're not paying money for words like springtails. We had a client do a podcast on springtails. We had a client
spotted lanternfly.
A spotted lanternfly, WDI letter. There are thousands of people a month looking for a word-destroying insect letter. And so having a piece of content means that you could dominate your market for something that could bring you a customer. Now, another strategy when it comes to creating podcast content is interviewing fellow businesses that aren't competitive. Is there a real estate agent? Is there a roofer? Is there a home builder? Is there a subdivision? Is there a theater group? We actually had a client interview the Pets. What's the company? Oh shoot, I'm having a senior moment here. People that look out for pets.
Veterinarian?
No, well, it's not a veterinarian. It's
dog grooming, boarding, dog boarding.
Well, it's the organization that that has,
PETA?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's a big organization that houses pets and keeps them from being euthanized and that kind of thing.
Humane Society.
There you go. I knew if I kept hounding on it, it'd come back to me. Anyway, he interviewed the local Humane Society on his podcast, and he got them to share that podcast on their social media. So now, if you get colleagues that are not competitive that you interview and you get them, I mean, if you're a builder, a painter, of a real estate agent, a banker, a mortgage lender, all those people are people that have people that could use pest control. So you're not selling yourself. You're just, we call it a community spotlight showcase on your podcast. So people are looking for the Humane Society, and up pops your podcast. There's just so many ways with content marketing and podcasting that you can build a local presence. You can't do it overnight. You can't do 100 podcasts and post them and then forget it. If you're going to do that, you might, you're not going to do it. It's to consistently, we had a client this week tell me, he says, I can't believe how many episodes you guys have. And I said, well, it took us 5 years. We're in year 5 of doing this, but we are consistent. It's the consistency, mixing it up, making fresh content, and trying to be relevant to what our market's looking for. And everybody, in fact, there was a research the other day that podcasts are continually growing bigger and bigger, even with older markets, because it's now so easy to subscribe to a podcast, and it's easy to listen to the podcast on demand in your cars, your boats, your home devices. Like, for instance, if I had my Alexa here, I could go, Alexa, let me hear the latest episode of the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. And by verbally talking to a box, you and I start coming out and people can listen to it. You could do the same. I've tested it. Alexa, let me hear the Faith Pest Control podcast. Here's the latest episode of the Faith Pest Control podcast. And here comes Fred's latest episode.
How about that?
So that kind of connectivity only grows and builds your presence over time. And I guarantee you, your competitors aren't doing it. Why?
No, they aren't.
Well, because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't make it a priority. We make it a priority. It is a priority with us, and if it should be with you. So is there any questions you have about podcasting that I didn't cover?
Well, no, because you and I have talked about podcasting, forever, and we teach our clients to do it. I help them with the content and teaching them how to be comfortable doing it. You do the mechanics for them and manage it for them, or either you teach them how to do it themselves and they take it over, whichever one they prefer to do. But you can certainly, if they want to know anything about podcasting and how it could help them grow their pest control business and make the phone ring from people finding them on the internet, they can give you a call at 770-826-3662 and probably say something like this. If you have to leave a message, hey, Mike, this is Bob Johnson. I listened to your podcast about podcasting and I want to get some more information about it. So call me back. Wouldn't that work if they left that message?
Man, you leave me that message, I promise you, I will call you out for my wave runner.
There. So if you're talking to Mike and you hear something in the background going, boom, 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 boom.
Well, you've heard that before, haven't you?
I have heard it before.
Well, and I'm telling you the same thing else. Hal is here to make a difference in your business. He loves it when he gets stories of success. And that's why calling Hal at 770-993-0004, 3 zeros, or emailing him Hal at Hal Coleman. Spend time with Hal. Let him give you a free hour of his time to show you how he can help you grow your business, change your business, and do what you need to do to go to the next level. And that's what we both do. And we've said it and we'll continue to say it. It's not any one thing. It's 1,000 little things. It's 1,000 little things that make the difference. And how many of those 1,000 little things are you willing to do? If you're not willing to do any of them, can't really help you that much. But here's one thing you need to do. Go to howtogrowapestcontrolbusiness.com. All we want is your name and email. Subscribe to this podcast. But more than important, we're telling you, we're pleading with you. Call Hal, 770-993-0004, or call me, 770 Mike Stewart, 826-3662. And Hal, you got any closing comments?
No, I just, folks, I appreciate you listening to our podcast and watching pestcontrolmarketing.live. There hardly a week goes by that there's a message on my voicemail that says, yeah, I want to talk to you. And I call, I say, how'd you hear about us? Or how'd you hear about me? Oh, I've been listening to your podcast for a long time. And they had just great things to say about our podcast. If you have listen, folks, if you listen to one of our podcast episodes and you just have a question about something that you heard on the podcast and you need clarification, all you got to do is call it. We're not going to try to sell you anything. I'm not, and I know Mike's not. If you want my help, I'll tell you more about how I can help you. And if you don't, if you just have a question about clarification about something you heard or something in my book, all you got to do is ask. I mean, if you got a good joke, I'd like to hear that too. And if I've heard a good one, I might tell you one. But, this is just all about building relationships and helping people. And we're all in this together. So if you have a question or need our help, we're both available to you. And Mike, with that, you ready to kind of think this is a wrap?
I think this is a wrap. I'm going to leave you with this. There's a big 3, and we'll talk about the other 2, but the big number 2 is content marketing. And the easiest, fastest way to do it is podcasting. So if you're not podcasting, give us a call and let us get you online to create an amazing set of content marketing for your internet presence. With that, I say this has been the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. with your podcast host, Mike Stewart, and the offline guru of gurus when it comes to pest control, Hal Coleman. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, pestcontrolmarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet audio and video guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-9